Hello, listeners. My name is Abigail Linhart, storyteller and proud mom of 3 ferrets. This is the first Summer Storm production. This short story, Ocean Gypsy, is not an epic. It is somewhat whimsical and fantastic, and I hope it reminds you that magic and adventure are only a good deed away, and most likely can be found on your front porch. If you'd like the transcript, or as we storytellers call it, the short story, so you can read it, then subscribe to my newsletter, as I send out short stories quarterly, and not all of those will end up as audio stories. This newsletter will also hold links to all the recent highlights, like blog entries, where I discuss the short stories that have been accepted for professional publication. For more information on me and my writing, please visit the social media links in the description, or visit abigaillinhart.com. That's ABIGAILLINHARDT.com. And now, Ocean Gypsy. The coast was lovely at all times of the year, according to Edith Moran. She loved the wild prairies and the dozens of sandy beaches that dotted the island. The harbor towns were her ideal fairyland, and she spent all 92 years of her life there, and had no intention of leaving. This summer was mild, and had prompted many walks down the beach from her tiny cottage. This was it, she had decided. This was the summer something magical would finally wash up on those shores she had watched all her life. Her best friend, Lily Ainsworth, was the older of the two. At 93 years of age, she flaunted her more experienced life and often talked down to Edith Moran for never having traveled outside the coastal county. Edith Moran saw no use in that. I went to Japan in '89, Edith. You know I know what I'm talking about. Lily Ainsworth huffed as they strolled down the beach, the wind mercilessly whipping at their hats. They have a similar legend as the Selkie. She was a heavenly maiden and she touched down at the very spot in that temple. I thought you'd like that story. Edith Moran smiled. How can somewhere so far away have the same story? She asked, pursing her lips tightly. And if it's the same as the Selkie, why did you have to travel so far to hear it? Lily Ainsworth sighed and dropped her friend's hand. It's too late now, you old bag. I don't see the point in even telling you about my travels anymore. I'll say a prayer, Edith Moran smiled, thanking God you finally shut up about your travels. There is nothing better in the world than this coast. I know it. I've been here 100 years. I know there are better places. I've seen them, Lily Ainsworth quipped back. I'll say a prayer too. Pray to God you get the shock of your life and die from fright. The women stopped to pick up some rocks and interesting shells. You're a hypocrite, Edith Moran, Lily Ainsworth said, picking up a white clam shell. Your head is in fairyland all the time, but you won't stop for one moment and look at the wonderful world around you. But Edith did not reply. Lily looked up and saw her friend staring, still as a frozen fisherman, at something on the beach a few meters away. It looked like a large white bag had washed up on the shore with something inside. Could be a Selkie, Edith said, half smiling. Or a mermaid. If we help a mermaid, we get a wish, you know. That's what my granddaughter says. She started off towards the thing on the beach. Don't even think about it, Lily shouted as her old friend ran to the thing. I'll call the authorities. But Edith didn't stop. Grumbling, she tossed aside the shells and followed her ridiculous friend. Lord in heaven, Lily said, crossing herself. Lying in the dark sand, tangled with long seaweed and partly blue, was a young woman in a white dress. Large scales stuck to her legs and her hair hung long, all the way down past her backside. "Help me get her inside," Edith panted, pulling some of the seaweed out of her hair and covering her more decently with the white dress she was wearing. "I'll get one of the boys," Lily tried, but Edith scoffed. "They'll go silly over her." "No, this is just between you and I." She met her friend's eyes. "Like old times?" Lily didn't think Edith had it in her. Somehow, the woman lifted the unconscious girl and carried her all the way up the path into the cottage. Edith always had a fire going in an old black wood-burning stove, as she had never updated the old house for modern heating. "I'll get the kettle on. You go get her some blankets and a dress from my closet," she ordered Lily. Lily crashed into the rocker by the fire, her hair a matted mess from the wind. She gaped at her friend, but when Edith didn't stop to acknowledge her horror, she did as she was asked. They laid the girl down on the old love seat and wrapped her up in blankets after changing out her wet sundress for a much cozier one. Edith took a brush to her tangled hair while ordering Lily to wash her arms and legs in warm water. "What are those?" Edith asked. Lily wiped the scales off the girl's legs. "Fish scales. She must have been in the water during the storm last night." "Are you sure they are fish scales?" Edith asked, looking at the rainbow scale in the bowl. "What else would they be? We used to get scales stuck to us when we went swimming," Lily grumbled. "Why don't I wash and brush her hair?" "No, don't do that," Edith said quickly. The girl's hair was thick, soft, and long. Brushing it would be wrong, like calming a storm at sea. She eyed the scales, then looked at the girl's face. Most girls are lovely, but this one had magic under her skin that Edith could not quite place. "How old do you think she is?" Edith asked. 30? Lily patted her legs dry. "Maybe." There was something enchanting about the girl's face. Once she was warm, her color returned, making her lips red and her cheeks pink. She sighed and began to wake up. "Stand up, look presentable," Edith hissed, pulling Lily to her feet. The girl opened her eyes and screamed. She stood up, but fell back down from a head rush. "It's all right, dear," Edith cooed, handing her the hot cup of tea. "We found you on the beach. We don't know who to call." "I know who," Lily grumbled. The girl's eyes went wide, skipping back and forth between the two of them. She took a deep breath to steady her nerves, then asked a question in a shaking, foreign tone. Lily and Edith glanced at each other. They had no idea what language it was. Seeing their confusion, the girl took a big drink of the hot tea. After she swallowed, she began to wave her hands. She made her fingers undulate. "Water," Edith said, smiling. "Were you in the water?" She pointed out the window to the ocean. Frowning for a moment, the girl nodded. Then she wiggled her fingers and snapped them. "The storm," Lily said, allowing a little excitement in her voice. "Just like we thought." "But who are you here with?" Edith asked. "Who can we call for you?" The girl's face was sad. She looked out the window and pointed to the ocean. Lily rolled her eyes and went to the phone. Edith took the girl's hand gently in hers, from where she was pointing. The girl frowned in determination. She hooked her thumbs together and made her fingers flap, like making a shadow bird. "Flying!" Edith shouted joyfully. "No, a bird! White!" she shouted again when the girl pointed to the white banister. "A white bird?" She smiled shyly, unsure if Edith was actually understanding her. She was grateful and enjoying the game, despite not knowing how to communicate. She knew they had saved her. "The White Heron," Lily grumbled. "That little bed and breakfast near the harbor." "Oh, yes, you're right," Edith chimed when the girl's eyes widened and she nodded. "White Heron," she said slowly in a thick accent. Lily called and described the girl. A man there, presumably her husband, said he would be by to pick her up and thanked them 1,000,000 times for finding her, with tears in his voice over the phone. "Well, that's that," Lily sighed, sitting down with a hot cup. She let her eyes wander out the window. Edith took the girl's hand again, smiling. The girl smiled back, her eyes bright as stars over the ocean. She handed Edith the hairbrush and sat up so she could run it through her hair. Feeling whimsy, Edith did just that, brushing and brushing, until a young, handsome man with the same kind of accent came to the door. Lily chided him for letting his girl get lost at sea, but it was obvious through his hugs and tender kisses that he would never let it happen again. On their way out the door, the girl touched her fingers to her lips, then placed them over her heart. She smiled at Edith, gently touching her white hair with affection. Edith knew the girl was saying thank you and was grateful. She also felt a little tingling go all the way down to her toes. She was happy to have helped. "But wait!" she called as the couple scampered down the path. "Who are you?" "Edith," Lily called from the doorway. "Leave them be. Enjoy your mystery and come heat this tea. It's cold again." The roar of the ocean waves deafened Edith as she stood outside. Suddenly craving the salt water, she got the urge to go swimming. She hadn't swam in ages, having been content to walk the foaming shores and pick up pretty rocks and unique shells. Not tomorrow, she told herself. The next day, Lily trudged down to the beach. Edith was splashing about like a lunatic among the waves. "You'll catch your death," she shouted. Once Edith was out of the water and drying off, Lily asked, "Why do you have to swim so much now? You've been out here all day." Edith smiled and took a deep breath, as though she'd been forgetting to breathe. "It energizes me so now." Lily narrowed her eyes, suspicious. "Well, take that energy home. Your granddaughter is here." Her granddaughter ran up the path to her, smiling broadly, showing her missing teeth, as Edith and Lily came up from the beach. "Wait till I tell you what happened the other day," Edith grinned, taking the little girl in her arms. "What?" the little girl asked, giggling. "Did you finally find the mermaid? Did you get a wish?" Edith smiled.